Cannabis Common Sense, the show that tells the truth about marijuana and the politics behind its prohibition.
Hello, Ed. Welcome to another exciting edition of Cannabis Common Sense. Our show is a production of our nonprofit organization, the Hemp and Cannabis Foundation, THCF, and our affiliated political committee, the Campaign for the Restoration and Regulation of Hemp. We have an exciting show for you tonight. Madeline Martinez of Oregon Normal and National Normal's back. Hi, Madeline.
Hi, how are you?
And we also have Mr. Tim Pate over here, ready to tell us about the adventures of pumpkin carving and other artistic endeavors, and play some mean acoustic guitar to accompany shots from the THCF Medicinal Gardens. We'll be taking your calls. We have film clips. We'll be bringing you up to date on the latest news. Just stay tuned as we bring out our infamous dancing cannabis leaves. Okay, Mr. Tim Pate, how are you doing, Tim?
Oh, I am actually tired.
You ready for Halloween?
I'm just about done with Halloween, quite frankly. It's been this week I've carved over 75 pumpkins, and
oh my gosh.
For those of you who got a chance to see me on Coin Channel 6 earlier in the day, I was on Coin Channel 6 from 4 to 5 o'clock today carving pumpkins, and so it's been an interesting week, interesting month, and always meet a lot of people and have a lot of fun. And spend a lot of time around a lot of kids too. So yeah. It's a great holiday for me. I really enjoy it. In fact, tonight I think I'll do a little carving here on the show while you guys are talking, and
all right,
end up
I
with
see
something.
A little pumpkin over there.
There's a little pumpkin sitting over here. We'll deal with that here in a little bit. In the meantime, I think I'll just play some music.
Thank you, Tim.
Since the harvest is in, I figured a little jazzy tune, you know. I usually feel in a jazzy mood once the harvest is in. I have to say that. Yeah.
It's that time of year, huh?
Definitely.
So how are you doing, Madeline?
I'm doing well, Paul. I feel a lot better. I had smoked with everybody in the nation. Many representatives from other chapters at the Normal Conference a couple of weeks ago.
Right.
And wow, even someone from Argentina. That Chris Conrad and Mickey Norris brought with them.
So, you shared some unwanted visitors,
yes.
germs, viral agents that get you down and you hurt your back, but you're coming back.
I'm back. I'm back in town. Right. I'm back and getting ready for our campaign. We're pretty excited about that, getting in motion. And
we'll be talking more about the campaign to end adult marijuana prohibition and restore industrial hemp and help medical marijuana patients in just a few moments. If you have a question or a comment out there tonight and you're watching on October 30th, 2009, you can call us at 503-288-4448. That's 503-288-4448. We'll be taking your calls right up to the top of the hour. We've been hearing that people from afar cannot get in, so we're going to have to establish an email address so we can take email questions from people, because they've been sending me emails saying they can't get through during the show. It's just too busy for them. So
it really is crazy. The secret is to call as soon as you hear that other person hang up. Or it used to be the secret till I just spilled it, huh?
Well, it's not a secret. We've been telling people that. It works for some and doesn't work for others. As folks that have rapid redial, that's one that it helps a lot.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So we've had some breakthroughs here in the past couple of weeks. One of them is Eric Holder issued this 3-page memorandum to the state attorney, U.S. attorneys for the states that have medical marijuana, and said not to enforce federal law if it's in conflict with state law. If a patient within a medical marijuana state is abiding by the state law, the federal government says they will no longer prosecute.
Right, and I think that the way I like to look at it is that they got the directive to honor the state's laws, and I think that's really exciting. As a matter of fact, we had Melody Silverwolf and Callie Labonte from your THC clinic on Channel 2, and it was great. They did a great job.
They did. I got a call. I was in Montana, and I said, well, who can handle that? I figured Melody. She'd be good.
She did a great job. I did Channel 6
and
that
I
night.
told Kelly that it was okay if she used cannabis and use it indoors in an office instead of outside. And I did not expect she was going to use the greenie capsules. I thought she was going to smoke something. So I was happily surprised to see that she used those. Hopefully we'll be able to get a clip of that and run it on the show.
Yeah, I've got a clip of the one I did later on that evening, too, at 5:30 on Channel 6.
We have another caller, our first caller, actually. Hello, caller, you're on the show.
Yeah, hi. How's it going tonight?
Very well. How are you?
Oh, good. I just wanted to do a little comment out there about, I've noticed a couple people out there getting signatures for cannabis and such. And I'm just a little frustrated why they're all like heavy-duty stoners. Like, hey, dude.
I don't know. I could say this about the people who have been volunteering. There are several different petitions out there. Right now there's one to establish medicinal dispensaries that's been going for some time. Ours, the Oregon Cannabis Tax Act, has just gotten through the phase of gathering the first few signatures. And so we had a fellow who's rather disabled at the library. He's not a heavy stoner. He's just different. But he's a great guy. He's a longtime activist. We had him in front of the public library gathering signatures. We're working with a local company now, Democracy Resources, and they're the only company that gathers petition signatures in the United States that's unionized. And also they work closely with the unions and and the Secretary of State. So we're pretty confident that our petitioners are going to be very professional.
Oh, good. Good. I would love to see that instead of...
Yeah, we haven't really began the petition drive on the Oregon Cannabis Tax Act petition, but we're still waiting for ballot titles. We're going to do some polling. We have 2 different versions we put out there, and once we've done that polling, then we're going to decide which version to move forward with. Then we've got this company online to gather all those signatures, and so we're hoping to put it on the ballot for July next year, but we haven't really begun our full petition campaign. We have gathered 1,000 signatures on each petition, and that's the initial process.
Oh, great. Yeah, I'd just like to see some more professional people out there instead of your typical, stoners, which I think would actually undermine gathering signatures.
Yeah, I think it might make it more difficult as well.
Yeah.
We're definitely not going to try to do it ourselves. It's a very difficult road to put an initiative on the ballot. It takes a lot of work, and we've got professionals who can do it. There are a lot of rules and regulations you have to adhere to as well, and to have professionals handling that, we can be certain that we don't run afoul of those.
Great.
Well, thanks for your call, though.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
I think it's very important that we do present a professional image, and we don't meet the stereotype of, no showers, smell from a distance, dirty clothes, those kinds of things. I mean, are detrimental to our cause, and we're trying to break that stereotype and move forward.
I was successful at gathering signatures, although I don't look like, as I like to say, the unbathed. But I did put a T-shirt on with a leaf on it, and I'm telling you, people were running after me to sign it. They said, "Whatever you have, I want to sign it." Just because of the leaf, and that was nice. I felt successful at that. But I like to go out there and present a more professional appearance to people. I think it's really helpful for us.
I think so too. We have another caller. Hello, caller, you're on the show.
Hey, my name's CJ. Actually, I wanted to ask you guys a little bit more. You're saying you're looking for petitioners, things like that. Well, I was wondering how somebody would follow into that line of job work or be able to help out with something like that.
Well, if you want to get paid as a petitioner, our organization is turning our petition drive over to this local company, Democracy Resources. So if you're interested in a position as a paid petitioner, I recommend you contact Democracy Resources, because we aren't going to handle that aspect of the campaign. We're hiring a professional company to do that. And so if you want to get involved in the volunteer campaign, they're going to be organizing some volunteer drives as well. So you might just want to touch base with them. And I think they'll be organizing some of those in the near future.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay,
I think what they said is they're going to get some of the first signatures with volunteers and then concentrate on paid petitioners for like the last 80% or so.
Okay, another thing on voting. When is that going to start taking place? Where are we going to be able to vote? Things like that, because I know that Obama was looking at doing something about voting and having people. I don't know if you guys knew anything about that or if it's just a rumor.
Well, here in Oregon, I remember well about 6 years ago when I went into the ballot box for the last time, because vote by mail is now in place. So you cannot go in and vote in a polling place here in the state of Oregon. You have to register to vote 20 days in advance of an election, and then you'll receive your ballot in the mail. And then you have to turn it in either by mail, or you can turn it in to one of the voter ballot drop boxes, or to the voter office.
Libraries, a lot of times in your district, will have the ballot boxes there available to you.
If you're in a specific county, as we all are in a specific county. Here in Multnomah County, the voter registration, or the voter county elections office, what it's called, it's right at 11th and Morrison.
Mm-hmm.
If you're in Clackamas County, it's in Gladstone, just off Main Street. If you're in Washington County, it's in Hillsborough, in the basement of the courthouse. So it all depends on which county you're in. It's best to mail it. And then there are drop boxes. Like I know over in my neighborhood in the Hollywood district, there's one in a U.S. Bank drive-thru right next to a McDonald's. And so it all depends on your neighborhood. They have these specific boxes they have there that are only used here during election time. And they put up some temporary ones, too, right at election time.
Well, I really enjoy vote by mail.
Yeah.
I think that everybody should adopt it in every state. It's so much easier for people, especially disabled people.
If something happens on the day of the election, like your car breaks down, your kids get sick, whatever it is, there's a big snowstorm, then vote by mail that has a much higher turnout in general.
I agree. And the best part of it is you don't have to. The only thing that can go wrong, though, is if you stack up envelopes. Because I have had so many people tell me, I was supposed to vote, it was underneath my pile of letters.
Right.
And so that's the biggest worry.
Do you have a question or something?
Yeah, what about, here's one that's probably going to help a lot of people out. What about convicted felons being able to vote? Is that possible?
Yes, in the state of Oregon, as long as you are not locked up in jail at the time of that, you know, during the period of time when you can vote and send your ballot in, then you can vote. In Oregon, convicted felons can vote. Ben Westland, a Republican from Bend, was not only a convicted felon for a cocaine offense, he was a state representative representing the Republican Party out of Bend, and then he he ran for governor as a non-partisan candidate and did pretty well. So in Oregon, you can not only vote, you can run for office if you've been convicted of a felony.
Oh, that's excellent. All right, well, it was nice talking to you guys.
You know, there are a lot of people, especially African Americans, that have been disproportionately impacted by the war on drugs.
Oh, yeah.
That in many states, a large proportion of the African American community cannot vote because of the restrictions against felons voting. So I'm really proud that Oregon is a state where, as long as you aren't currently incarcerated, you can vote and you can participate. I think it's important that all people can participate, and if you disenfranchise the convicted felon, it just makes recidivism more likely, I believe.
I agree. Well, you know, you were talking about the recent announcement from the Department of Justice, Eric Holder, and the Obama administration, and it was interesting because, of course, as soon as that news hit, we had the phone ringing off the hook, all the different stations calling, wanting to know what was going on.
All the patients calling.
Patients, yeah. But our own Senator Bill Morissette made the New York Times because they did a big article of all the states that had medical marijuana laws, and the title is "States Pressed into New Role on Medical Marijuana." And Senator Morissette, Bill Morissette of Springfield, said the fact that the feds are backing off is going to allow changes that are going to make it more accessible, said Bill Morissette, a state senator in Oregon and chairman of a committee that oversees the state's medical marijuana laws. Mr. Morissette said he expects a flurry of proposals in the legislature, including a plan already floated by guess who, to have the state grow marijuana crop itself, perhaps on the grounds of a state penitentiary in Salem. And it would be very secure, he said. When I mentioned it to him, he just looked at me like I was insane. But I love that.
But now he's pushing it himself.
Exactly.
To the New York Times, even.
To the New York Times. So our state, what is that old Bob Dylan song, Times They Are A-Changin'?
Indeed.
Really quickly. So you guys got to jump on the momentum and give your representative, your state senator, a call and tell him you agree with Senator Bill Morissette of Springfield, and you think that they should as well. And that should be the position of all our representatives, because that's what Oregon believes in, ending adult marijuana prohibition, let's face it.
If you're out there and you want to give us a call and ask us a question or make a comment about ending adult marijuana prohibition, restoring hemp, and helping medical marijuana patients, call us at 503-288-4448. That's 503-288-4448. Yeah, we can talk a little bit more about our proposal. You know, we have this petition out there. We're going to start gathering signatures, and basically it would allow anybody to cultivate marijuana for their own personal use, with no limits on the number of plants, as long as it be for personal use, and no restrictions on the genotype, or you couldn't just grow the swag that some people worry about. And so patients wouldn't have to get a medical marijuana permit anymore. Hey, Tim, you want to hold that thing up? You've got this nifty here in Madeline's hand is the new art of Mr. Tim Pate. Maybe we'll get a close-up of that.
That is beautiful. Great job.
Yeah,
that didn't take you but a minute.
I know.
He's an artist.
You are definitely an artiste. Very nice.
And so...
there you go. All right. Happy Halloween, everybody.
Yeah.
Halloween. Just tomorrow. Anyway, it would allow people to grow their own, and that would just basically, if you can't grow your own, it would allow people to go to a store and buy it through a licensed retailer, and you'd be guaranteed that the potency was good and the purity. You wouldn't have adulterants like mold or pesticide.
Right. Because we create the Oregon Cannabis Control Commission.
Exactly.
And what it'll do is it'll oversee quality control. And my dream is if I would be selected to be a quality control person.
Yeah.
It's okay. We don't have to change the whole law just to suit me, but I think it's a great idea. And fee control. I love the idea of fee control because marijuana is overpriced out on the black market. Let's face it, folks. And we need to bring those prices down to an affordable rate. I mean, I understand about the pharmaceuticals, but are we going to become like the pharmaceuticals? You know, the thing that you loathe the most, you end up becoming like that?
I think
that's wrong.
I think that when marijuana is legally grown, we'll see the $10 lids, the $10 ounces back. Because you can grow this stuff on trees, you know.
Yeah. Right in your backyard.
Yeah. Yeah. It all depends on how big you grow them, but definitely you can get pounds off a single plant if you know what you're doing and you grow it right and you start it early and put it outside early in the season.
Yeah, and it's really
and you don't get ripped off.
More economical to grow outside and less work, I think.
Yeah. And you don't have to worry about pests as much because indoors there are just certain pests that can make it through, you know, the vents and they have to be microscopic basically to make it inside. Where outside there are a lot of natural predators that are there to gobble them up so they can't get out of control nearly as much.
It's true, it's true. That is one of the biggest successes of being outdoors is the natural light, the sun herself giving us all that.
And the natural ventilation and all that. We have another caller. Hello, caller. You're on the show. Hello, caller.
Hello, sir.
Welcome.
How are you today?
Very well, very well. How are you?
Listen, I had a couple questions.
You come to the right place.
And I know I have. Including your lawyers in Seattle have been helping me out a lot recently. Anyway, which gives me the question here is, can an Oregon grower be, can a Washington resident with their card have an Oregon grower?
No.
Can the person be the grower or the
not under Oregon or Washington law.
Okay.
In fact, it almost runs afoul of federal law about interstate transport as well. Under Oregon's law, you have to be a patient or a grower. You have to be a Oregon resident. You have to have either an Oregon driver's license, an Oregon ID card, or an Oregon voter registration card. And under Washington's law, you have to be a Washington resident.
Right. You have to have ID with the recommendation.
Yeah, exactly. But under Washington's law, the state law says it's only for Washington residents.
Okay, so a patient in Oregon or in Washington I cannot take care of that patient.
No, not legally, not under the Oregon state law or under Washington state law.
Is this mostly crossing state lines or we get into the federal thing?
And then the state law in each of those states defines who can be a card holder. And the law in Washington says it's for Washington residents. The law in Oregon says you have to have one of these three forms of identification to be a patient or a grower. Then there are 3 states that will recognize your medical marijuana permit from Washington or from Oregon or any other state, and that's Montana, Michigan, and Rhode Island. So if you have a permit in Washington, there are some dispensaries in Montana that will recognize that, and the police, you're protected from arrest in Michigan, Montana, and Rhode Island.
Yep. That's great. Well, you're giving me a lot of good information that other viewers can use also. Since like I said, am definitely entrenched in a legal battle, which possibly may go to appeal, which is good.
Well, good luck on that. I know that's a lot of stress.
Yeah, I've talked to your lawyers down in Seattle, and they've helped me out a lot.
Great.
Great. Okay, well, thank you very much for your answer. I got all my information.
Hey, you're welcome. Thanks for the question. It is
Have a great evening.
You too. Thanks.
If you have a question for us tonight, call us at 503-288-4448. That's 503-288-4448. There it is on your screen.
Great.
Yeah, that's a problem. If you're in one state and you're in the other, it could cause problems. That's when the feds start looking at things, too.
Yeah, well, you know, we often run into this problem because so many people, just being across the river a few minutes away for many, they want to come to our meetings, our cardholder meetings.
Sure.
And it really is sad to turn them away, but we have no choice. And I keep encouraging people, if you're in Vancouver and you'd like to start a branch of or a chapter of Normal out in Washington and Vancouver, you can do it. All you need is 5 people, and we can teach you how to use our same template to have cardholder meetings for people to go out there and be self-sufficient.
What other states are they doing that in? Is that they doing it in
Rhode Island? Rhode Island is doing it, and we're very excited to have shared our template with them.
Yeah.
And they've taken it to another level, and they've got great meetings going on where they give away cuttings as well as excess medicine. So it's a real thrill to be able to do that. And someone in Israel asked me for it, how they do it, because they also have a program with no consideration in it.
I see, I see.
So that was interesting to think we're international. Exciting.
We have another caller. Hello, caller.
Hi, my name is Paul from Portland,
Howdy.
Oregon. Hi. And I was more concerned with the fact of why you guys can't teach a little bit more about growing and harvesting on TV.
Oh, well, you know, we can.
Is there a law against such thing, or are
No,
you guys able to do that? Or?
You know, we are in the works, I think, in setting up something where we'll be able to film more and produce more way clips. It's, you know, every minute that you play something on the air, generally it takes an hour at least to produce that. And in some cases, in movies and things, it's basically an hour per second of view time that they spend editing those things. So it's a pretty time-consuming and expensive process to produce things. But that said, we're going to work on producing more roll-ins for our show. You know, currently we roll a couple of things in each show, but when it comes to growing, it's good to have direct visual props and be able to show exactly what you're talking about. And we can't do that here in this TV studio.
Yeah, see,
So
that's more of my problem. Is I can read something, but I'm kind of like lost and dumb to it. But when I see it, and then I have a more understanding of a visual.
You know, we on occasion run clips from various videos out there. There's a few how-to grow things that we've run clips of. Maybe we'll run one here in the next 2 or 3 minutes.
And I can find that on .org.
Yeah, exactly. Go to our portal at hemp.org and into the video library. You can find more and more of those things. But there's a lot of competing CDs or DVDs you can buy that outline ways to grow.
Excellent. And to be able to provide more harvest, because I'm I have a 400-watt system, just a small setup. Mm-hmm. I don't have a lot, just for myself. It's medical.
Yeah.
And I like to learn how to produce more than what I produce already in the previous past I produced, but I haven't produced as much as I feel like I could be able to do. But I haven't been able to found the proper literature or anywhere that, at least in the local area, that
there's going to be a cultivation class coming up that at the Oregon Medical Cannabis Awards.
Exactly. Danny Danko is the senior cultivation editor from High Times magazine, and he learned at the side of Jorge Cervantes the Bible of cannabis.
It's from right here in River City, folks. George Cervantes is a Portlander.
Native. Yeah.
Used to have a grow shop in the 80s over on 100th and Southeast Foster.
Right, and thanks to Tim for mentioning it, but we're going to have the grow seminar on at the event during the day. Instead of a legal panel, we're going to have a grow panel. So it's a really exciting seminar, and you can find out all about it at our website at ornorml.org. And the pre-registration forms are there, and all the information you could want about Danny.
Hopefully
maybe you could come. I hope that helps.
Excellent. Well, I can find that information on hemp.org, right?
On Oregon Normal's website.
Oregon.
O-R.
Yeah, for that upcoming cannabis cultivation class.
NORML.org.
Okay, excellent.
All right.
Check that out.
Great.
Well,
December
thank you, gentlemen.
12th.
You're doing well. Good work.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll be talking more about the Oregon Medical Cannabis Awards as we get closer to that date. I had a fellow come in from Salem today, and he showed me some very nice buds. And he goes, do you think these are good enough to enter in the Oregon Medical Cannabis Awards Cup? I said, yes, go ahead. I think that's a very nice sample that you have there, young man.
I sent some applications across the state, and it's been really exciting. We started to pick up all of our samples are coming in. They're rolling in pretty quickly. So that's a really exciting moment for us all, to start pulling all those samples in and getting our judges ready to sample their different strains. Pretty exciting. It's always an exciting time of the year.
My curing process is taking a little longer than anticipated this year, so I'm not quite ready yet to be giving out our cannabis, but I'm hoping come Sunday or Monday things will be dry enough, but they're not ready yet. So
we're giving
it out tomorrow.
We're trying to kind of wrap ours up by the 12th of November as a cutoff date, because we want to get it out in plenty of time for our judges to have ample opportunity to give us a really good assessment of how it affects their conditions.
Yeah.
Each of those samples, and you can't make people rush
through
that process. Boy, I've taken one of those.
Well, that's the advantage of Oregon's contest. You go to all these other contests, they have like 30 entrants, and you're supposed to try them all in one night, and everybody votes, and the one that gets the most votes wins. It's just not very scientific. The way the Oregon Cup is presented, the judges get a month and a half to sample 30. They're graded on, 7 or 8 different criteria, from the smell and medicinal effect and potency and appearance, all of that.
Aroma. It's just really, really great. But we'll talk more about that at a later date, because there's so much to talk about today.
That's true. That's true. We have another phone call. Let's take that call. Hello, caller.
Hello, Paul.
Welcome.
This is Max. We talked the other day.
Hey, how are you doing, Max? You're the fellow who has been taken off by OHSU of the liver transplant role.
Yes, sir, I am. I am also on Facebook, and I found a few minutes ago that THCF has a cause you can espouse there.
That's true.
And on your birthday, they will send out emails to all your friends and contacts and request that they join and be part of it.
That's true. That's true. I think I was looking at it a couple days ago. It's up to 2,300 people who clicked the button and said they joined THCF on the Facebook page. And there's also a thing out there at causes.org/hemp. That's another thing about our nonprofit. You can join there. I think the Facebook page and the causes.org page have merged together now. So they're part of the same thing. And
well, on my birthday.
But I know, Max, has anything developed? I know you, because of a test for medical marijuana, a test that sounds like it just barely showed anything at all, at about 50 nanograms, which is about the cutoff point for a positive and a negative test. They've taken you off the liver transplant list. And basically, that's a death sentence, right?
What's that?
Basically, that's a death sentence. If you don't get a liver transplant, your liver is dying, and you won't live without a transplant much longer.
That is true. I've almost died 3 times so far. And,
right. And so just because of medical marijuana, I known about 25 people who've been in your situation, and out of those 25 people, all 25 of them have passed away. One woman was put back on the medical marijuana, put back on the liver transplant list, but then she didn't come up for one. So I understand normal legal attorney John Lucy is representing you pro bono. Has there been any move forward since we talked earlier this week?
Well, he and I are meeting on Monday, and we're going to work out a plan.
Good.
But there's 33,000 something people in Oregon alone that can come in and help us. And if they would, we would be so pleased. So many people don't know it. Don't know people are dying.
Yeah, it's a real tragedy. True. You know, we were able to help get Pam back on the transplant list with Legacy Emmanuel. Mm-hmm. They had taken her off, and we had so many people call them, and they asked for her to have the people stop calling, and they put her back on the list. So it may work out. You know, I don't know. I just think that it's it's worth making an attempt. So if you give us some of your contact information and leave it at our phone number, 503-239-6110, we can sure talk to people at our meeting about it. Because, you know, we work best when we work in unity.
Mm-hmm. Your fight is our fight, man.
Yeah, because you're one of our community, and you need to let us know how we can help you. So it's a good thing you called tonight.
And, you know, maybe you should come down here and come on the show, and let's talk about it and get your face out there and let them know that we aren't going to stand for this anymore.
Absolutely.
And we have some newspaper people that would be very interested in speaking with you.
That's true. That's true. I have had contacts asking for someone in your position previously. I don't know if they're still interested, but that's something we should start working on Monday after you meet with John Lucy.
Yeah, ask him if that's something that he would be in favor of doing.
I'm sure
some attorneys say no, but
I'm sure John will be in favor of that one. Well, thank you, Max. You hang in there, and I look forward to talking to you here next week.
Our prayers and thoughts are with you, Max. Hang in.
Hang in there. Thanks.
Thank you. We have a film clip we're going to roll, and we'll be back in just a moment to take more questions and phone calls, so stay tuned.
The Latin name of this ancient plant and now infamous drug is Cannabis sativa. While this plant has been an integral part of mankind's history for countless years, you will not find it in the history books. It is a plant with two faces. On the one hand, it supplies us with hemp, whose legitimate uses includes clothing, canvas, and rope making. And, on the other hand, it is the source of cannabis, the illegal psychotropic drug. This is the story of Cannabis sativa, the plant with many, many uses.
We are near Le Mans, in west of France. Hemp has been grown here for hundreds of years, for both domestic and industrial use. Farmers here still use the traditional method of processing hemp, known as water retting. The stalks of hemp are extremely tough and resistant to rot, which is why it was traditionally used for ropes and canvas. Once harvested, hemp is left to soak in water before it is laid out into the fields to dry, so that the tough fibers may be more easily separated from each other. Even today, hemp fibers are broken down by hand, although an experienced hemp breaker can break from 100 to 200 pounds of hemp a day. This method still adds to the production cost. Cannabis sativa is one of the most ancient plants cultivated by mankind. Hemp processing was already developed in China 8,000 years before Christ was born. Hemp was first harvested for its seeds, a rich source of amino acids used for food. Then it was discovered that by breaking the stalks, they could use the fibers to make paper, as well as fishing nets and up to 5,000 hemp-related products, including, of course, textiles. The ancient Chinese called their country the land of hemp and mulberry. Mulberry leaves were used to feed silkworms, from which was produced the precious silk that only the rich and powerful could afford. Everyone else wore hemp clothing. Hemp is called ma by the Chinese, literally meaning plant with two forms, male and female. Hemp was also the first crop to be grown for use in war. The Chinese had originally used bamboo to make bowstrings. Then they discovered that the hemp fiber was stronger and lasted longer. Imperial decrees ordered that certain areas of the land would be exclusively used to grow hemp. An ancient legend says that hemp paper was discovered by Sai Lun, a scribe and eunuch of the imperial court. To publicize his discovery, Sai Lun pretended to die. He ordered that hemp paper should be burnt around his coffin. Then he arranged his own apparent resurrection and attributed it to the properties of his new invention. Ever since, hemp has been an integral part of the Chinese funeral ceremony known as Wu Fu, or the 5 levels of mourning. This code lays down, among other things, that the family wear different hemp clothes corresponding to their relation with the deceased. The Chinese jealously kept the secret of paper-making for centuries. It wasn't until the 5th century that this knowledge was passed on to other countries, finally appearing in Europe in the 8th century.
The word cannabis comes from the Babylonian canna, meaning cane or stalk. Bis meaning twice, with two forms or sexes, cannabis. Interestingly, it has the same meaning in Chinese. The word ma is a word from a completely different culture, yet it means exactly the same. Ma means the plant from which we take the fibers and which has two sexes. For good hemp, you have to look for rich, strong fibers, and these attributes are most marked in the male plant. The female plant, on the other hand, is a plant used in smoking, because all the psychoactive substances concentrate there. It is a plant with two sexes, two attributes. This is something completely fundamental.
Cannabis has been used medically since the year 2800 BC, when Emperor Shen Nung founded the science of Chinese medicine. Wounds sustained in battle were bandaged in cannabis leaves. Today, doctors across the whole world are asking for the right to use cannabis as a treatment for pain, especially for cancer and AIDS.
I'm a cannabis user. I've been using cannabis since I was approximately 9 years old. I've had cancer 10 times. It first occurred in my spine when I was 2 years old. I had a spinal fusion which fused my first 5 vertebrae together. I went on to have it from 2 to 10, 9 times in 8 years. It occurred once again when I was 15. We treated it with radiational therapy. Through the years I've gone through radiational therapy, chemotherapy, and numerous forms of surgery. And I stumbled upon cannabis once after radiational therapy use. It alleviated my dizziness and nausea, just the secondhand smoke, and it also increased my appetite. And right now, I go around the world and I try to teach people about cannabis and its benefits and its usages, because I found it so beneficial in my situation.
Cannabis was also grown in the foothills of the Indian continent. Today's Kazakhstan, Pakistan.
So that's a clip from The Magic Weed, a British production from, I think it was 2006. And it's a great little film. You should check that out whenever you can. It's available at your video stores, and you can buy it at Amazon. We have a caller, though. Hello, caller. You're on the show.
Hi, great show as always.
Thank you.
The gentleman that called earlier for the transplant, was that OHSU that gives him this problem?
Yeah. OHSU kicked him off the transplant list because he just barely tested positive for marijuana. You know, there's a urinalysis test that tests for metabolites, so it doesn't really test whether you're high or not at all. It tests whether you've had any past use for marijuana over the past 30 days or so. And in that test, your body produces natural endogenous THC that's called anandamide, and it's chemically identical in these tests to THC from the plant. So they have to automatically say everybody's going to test at about 30 to 35 nanograms of THC, whether they've never used marijuana at all, because your body produces some. And so once they get above 50 nanograms, then some tests say that's the cutoff point, and that's where they should find you are, had used marijuana sometimes in the past. And so his, I think, was about 54 nanograms, which is a microscopic difference.
It's amazing, Paul, our library of information. It is super great. I would think, so, that OHSU receiving state grant money would be in violation of state law, and there would be a lawsuit there. Also, I was wondering, too, that as...
We're hoping John Lucy's going to pick up that ball and run with it. Unfortunately, what happens in so many of these cases, I know Doug Hyatt had one just last year or a year and a half ago, is that these people don't live long enough to come to court. You know, they file the lawsuit, and by the time it's time to come to court, the plaintiff is deceased and no longer has standing.
And that's, to me, one thing wrong with the marijuana law in Oregon is that we don't have dispensaries, because that a lot of patients don't have the time to wait and watch it grow.
Yeah, that's true.
And hopefully that's remedied in the future. I've had cancer twice, colon. I wear a colostomy bag. Had it in my lung. When it came back, they took a wedge out. But I have a great grower, And
congratulations.
And, yeah, they're hard to find.
Yeah, they are.
But I have smoked other pot from and used it from other growers. And I find quality control. I can sort of tell who's using heavier chemicals, and I wonder if that can be a problem in the future, since it's being digested by people that are sick already.
Well, I think it can. You know, people who are already ill have a lower tolerance to pollutants and irritants, and I think that it's best to give people organic cannabis, and the closer you can get to a natural environment, the better off it's going to be. However, you really can taste if someone's fertilized their cannabis before harvest. You can taste that in the marijuana, and generally most people recommend that you flush the ground with water 2 or 3 weeks before harvest, and then let it dry out the last week. And that will remove some of the chemical taste if you've been using chemical fertilizers. The way I grow is I put all of my fertilizers in the ground in March and February, and then I don't really add anything else until next March and February.
I think it's the pesticides that are being used on the mites is probably the biggest problem, and not a fertilizer itself. Most people are trying to kill mites thinking it's an insect, and it's really not. It's a spider. They need to use an arachnicide or a miticide to handle that problem.
Or just soapy water.
Insect.
Soapy water will do it. It takes a lot of elbow grease, but regular applications of soapy water can wipe them out too.
And then one other question I'd like to ask you. Now that Obama has told DEA to back off, I have a farmer friend that wants to get a little involved. Do you think now growing more of the 99 plants is safe?
Not for an individual. I think that if you have
to pick up the cards,
like a collective garden. Here in Oregon, we're limited to 4 plants. This was one thing last week. It's 4 patients per grower. And so I think if growers band together, so no grower in Oregon can technically, no single individual can grow more than, with 24 plants each, 96 plants. So, however, I think that if growers band together on the same plot of land, that could be legal, but I wouldn't want to be the one out there testing it and have to go to federal court to decide.
Right. So you're saying one grower can only grow for 4 people?
Yeah, you can only be a grower for 4 people. Now, I have slid through the loophole on the caregiver. There's no limit on the number of people you can be a caregiver for. So for a lot of my patients, because I'm limited to only, myself and 3 other patients, I sign on as their caregiver, in a lot of cases leave the patient as the grower, but still I take care of them and I grow for them. So actually I'm the caregiver and grower all together for about 24 people. So but the way I grow big plants.
How many plants can you legally grow?
Well, technically, with 24 patients, about 150 or so that are larger than a foot tall and a foot wide. But I only grew 24 outdoors because I grow them big. And so I have less than 1 full plant per patient, but I'm still able to provide those patients 24 ounces a year from that less than 1 full plant per patient.
So you think pushing, because the federal law was over 99 plants, it became a felony?
Well, no, actually the federal law is a lot more complicated than that. Under the federal law, for first-time offenders who have less than an ounce, that's a misdemeanor. For second-time offenders for less than an ounce, then it's a felony. And for cultivation of any amount of marijuana under federal law is a felony, but there are different penalties for different amounts you grow. If you grow less than 6 plants and it's your first offense, there's one, I can't remember the exact rule, but I know that for over, let's say 99 plants, the first offense is 5-year mandatory minimum if you're between 99 plants and 999. And then the second offense for growing over 100 plants is a 10-year mandatory minimum. And the third offense under federal law for growing over 100 plants is life without the possibility of parole. Now, there's an enhancement also once you get to 50 plants. So for first-time offenders who grow less than 99 plants but more than 50, first offense is a 2-year mandatory minimum. Second offense is a 5-year mandatory minimum. Third offense is a 10-year mandatory minimum. So it all depends. There's an enhancement at 25 plants, at 50 plants, and at 100 plants, and 1,000 plants under federal law.
And my last question is on the 3 initiatives that were circulated in California, all making it totally legal if you're over 21 and taxed, polled out at 56%. Have you taken a poll of Oregonians to see where a totally legal taxed marijuana would be at, just to poll it, just to see what the number would be? Yeah,
well,
I thought 56%
as a matter of fact, we
was high.
spent a big $5,000 last year, about September, on a poll on our Cannabis Tax Act. And the old Cannabis Tax Act would have put the sale of marijuana in the state liquor stores. We found that that was a big mistake, that a lot of people don't want to see it in the same stores as liquor. There's a lot of people that look at the Oregon Liquor Control Commission and say they're corrupt. So we found by taking it out of the liquor store system and putting it into a cannabis-only store, we'd do a lot better. Now we're in the process of obtaining 2 different ballot titles on 2 versions of our OCTA petition.
Right.
Oregon.
So what did it poll out on the? What were your numbers?
42% was the best we did in for legalization in the liquor store model.
I think that would be higher now, considering California is at 50%.
Yeah. Well, I think so too. You know, last year in September, it was before the big financial meltdown happened in October, and so we polled just a little bit of before that, with the bailout of the banks, the financial collapse, the expansion of medical marijuana, and there's just been a whole sea of change in the media portrayal of marijuana. We were just talking a moment ago about this PBS series on plants that appeared on public television a couple nights ago, The Botany of Desire.
Right.
They talked about 4 plants: apples, tulips, marijuana, and potatoes. And then they talked about how those plants have kind of served mankind's needs to such an effect that we've benefited the plants just as much as the plants have benefited us.
It looks at it from the perspective of maybe the plants are controlling us rather than us controlling the plants, and it was really very interesting if you ever get to see it.
It talks about that symbiotic relationship. I think it's on here in Oregon tonight at 1:30 on Channel 10.
Keep up the good work.
I was lucky enough to have taped it.
Keep up the good work. You guys, a great show. Everybody's proud of what you guys do. And have a good evening.
We actually have the cannabis part. They put the whole show on PBS website, and so we've linked hemp or crrh.org/hemp news to the cannabis section, so you can go there and watch the whole 30-minute segment on cannabis, and it had details on the science and the neuroscience and how cannabis affects the brain, and about endogenous cannabis, and they interviewed all the movers and shakers like Raphael Mechoulam, the fellow who discovered THC and then discovered endogenous anandamide, the THC analog. And so it was a great production. I think it's one of the best productions yet on marijuana and cannabis. Then we saw just a few weeks ago on the Today Show, it seemed like a commercial. They were talking about marijuana with what they called, it was based on an article in
Stiletto
Stoners, exactly, about women who use cannabis. And it portrayed it in an entirely positive light as a viable alternative to smoking wine and using alcohol.
It was great. And, you know, one of the things that it led me to do was, at the Normal Conference, to ask for a woman's with the Women of Normal to be formed, and so we're forming a Normal advisory panel of all women. So that's pretty exciting, and we're all going to wear our T-shirts and do this photo of the women of Normal changing hearts and minds everywhere. So we're pretty excited about that. It's pretty thrilling to see women finally take a role in this movement, because for so long it was run by men. And not to say anything wrong, they're great, I love them. You know, I had one for 40 years, but it's time for women to buckle up their bras and let's go change this. Our husbands, our sons are being arrested. Our people, as a Latina, I got to tell you, my people disproportionately. I go to the Normal conference. I've been going for about 10 years, and everybody's saying, well, where's all the other Mexicans? I said, they're busted. They're in prison for marijuana, and that's ridiculous. And I don't want to say it. I don't want it to happen for my grandchildren. I want to change it for all minorities.
We are down to just a little bit more than a couple of minutes, and I have to tell you out there that if you or a loved one qualify for medical marijuana and you don't know where to find a doctor, guess what? We know doctors all across the country who are ready to help you. Just give us a call at that toll-free number right there on your screen, 1-800-723-0188. That's 1-800-723-0188. Is there anything else you'd like to say in closing, Madeline?
Yeah, I'd like to let everyone know that Oregon Normal is opening up a cannabis cafe. We're going to be opening on Friday, November the 13th, because we own Friday the 13th now.
All right.
420.
So more information on that in the near future.
Yes.
So stay tuned, and remember, tune in next week and help us restore hemp. And here's Mr. Tim Pate.
Happy Halloween.